So I'm gonna bury you right here. But you'll be dead before Stevie pulls your teeth.
Accurate. He says, all right, take his teeth out. Back in those days, they didn't have DNA. They would identify bodies by dental records. My name is Mark Silverman, and I was involved in organized crime.
Hello, my name is John Pennisi. I'm a former made member of the Lucchese crime family.
My name's Lee Thompson. I'm a pickpocket for hire.
My name's Brian Stanton. I'm a casino executive in Las Vegas.
My name is Charlie Santori.
Cain Vincent Dyer.
Today we're going to be looking at casino heist movie scenes,
Mafia scenes,
Safecracking,
art heist clips,
Irish mob movie scenes,
bank robbery scenes,
Pickpocketing in movies, and we're going to judge just how real they are. On the Chicago Loop, I would actually see lots of businessmen reading newspapers, and this still is spot on. The interaction, the amount of eye contact, it's not too much. He doesn't knock him over. It's a little, whoops. The guy is shielding his own pocket with his newspaper that he's reading. He's already done the pickpocketing work for the pickpocket, unknowingly. The technique is beautiful, and we're watching it from a spectator's point of view. He's not tried to move away because there's no heat on him, but he will get out of that carriage. When I work with the police, we often tell people about a thing called looping, where you might think, I know that person, but you don't, but subconsciously you've seen them a couple of times in a short space of time because they're not getting anywhere, but they've got an agenda. The London Underground is notorious for pickpockets because it's crowded. It's been reported that in one station alone, it was 139 cases of pickpocketing. Close your bag, keep it in front of you, especially on a crowded tube or metro. It's a 10. The technique is beautiful, and unfortunately, it does happen. As he raises his arm, he's actually raising his pocket to her hand. So she has to stand like that and clip whatever she needs to clip. And then when he puts his arm down, the pocket moves away from the item, and his peripheral vision, her head is to his right side. He can't see anything over this right side. Now, I'm not telling you this so you go out and do it. I'm telling you this so you don't be a victim of it. The greater movement supersedes that of the lesser movement, or the greater force supersedes that of a lesser force. So they say, if I tap your leg with a pencil and then hit your shoulder with a hammer, you'll forget me tapping the pencil leg, but you'll feel the hammer. So misdirection and sleight of hand is super important, and you can easily do that. We've got a piece of paper or an envelope. It's not a bulky item, so it's not perfect. I would give it an 8.
So lost.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I think this movie is super well choreographed. The pressure in gripping that purse or that wallet with the chopsticks, you're gonna have to be pretty spectacular gripping. Most people can't even pick up sushi. So a heavy purse with coins in, maybe, we don't know what's in there, would be trickier, but it can be done. I've done things like this on behalf of the police to draw attention as a crime prevention, but just to show people how easy it was and how vulnerable they are. Yeah, 100%. She could. Because he's moving and she's moving, he's not static, so the movement is covering all her movement. Definitely she's taken that leather strap watch with that technique. Because if you look, the crystal is really heavy, so when you undo the tongue bit through the prongs, the weight of the crystal will make the watch fall away from the wrist. So, and what's actually happened is he's actually moving away from the watch. The friction could make him go, what's going on? So he's actually aiding it himself unknowingly, and the weight of that crystal would make it fall away easier for her. It's not how quick can you do it, it's when you do it. So she's not actually looking at the wrist, she's looking into his eyes, and she's constantly looking into his eyes. She never once looks at his wrist when she's doing the watch steal. You might think there's a lot going on, that would never happen, but you're looking from a bird's eye view, but they're all communicating with telephones on their earpieces and with visual signals. People at street parties who have been drinking are easy targets because one, your inhibitions have gone, and that makes the element of surprise better for the pickpocket to get close to you. My colleague, Apollo Robbins, I can see in the clips because I can tell his body language and I know what it looks like, was involved in this. It's phenomenal. I'd give it 10 out of 10.
What the hell are you doing here?
The chances of her having anything in that pocket is highly unlikely because it's quite a smart trouser suit and the pocket's high, and although for the girl in the clip, being small down is really advantageous to being a pickpocket because you're low down to people's bags and pockets, but the Black Canary is quite a tall lady compared to her, so she's got to reach up into the pocket, and it's just the timing is wrong. 100% she would catch her. It could be the three-finger dip, if you like. It doesn't matter, they don't. 3 fingers, a whole hand. She's a child who's got a small hand.
I really like your earrings.
I hate that bit. I hate it. Clearly just done for the movie. Zero technique. To do a bracelet, how do you know what clasp is on the bracelet? There are so many different sorts. Does it come over the hand? If it's over the hand, there's one important thing that gets in the way, that's the thumb. She just takes it off, but her hand is on the bench, so she's got to go under to find the clasp, and it clearly undoes from underneath. Fake. It's a normal thing that you would be used to seeing. Someone's broken their arm, or they've got it in a sling, or people carry babies in front of them that are not babies. As a doll, you can buy realistic babies. I've actually witnessed and seen the babies, and I do the baby trick myself. Everything is doable. So I would give this out of 10 an 8.
Hello, my name is John Pennisi. I'm a former made member of the Lucchese crime family. I also got involved as a low associate to the Gambino family when I was very young. Today we're going to be looking at mafia scenes in movies and TV.
He sat on one the whole way over.
And what's depicted here is a guy getting what we would call straightened out, inducted. And it's inaccurate by the way that they're kidding around. This is a serious ceremony where there's no joking or playing around.
Okay. That's St. Peter, my family's saint. Now, as that card burns, so may your soul burn in hell if you betray your friends and the family.
There was 2 members being made, and that is not accurate. It would be one at a time. They would bring one person up into the room and do the ceremony and then call the other one up. Some of the things were accurate that was said, and obviously the pricking of the finger and the burning of the saint, but all in all, it wasn't 100%. I don't know if they put it there for this reason, but a lot of Italians are superstitious about birds. They don't even give cards out with birds on it. They don't think it's a good sign.
You're doing really good this year with the sports movie.
Yeah, it's been good.
I'm going to give it to you, my boy. It's yours.
Nothing's set in stone of how long you have to go as an associate before you become an inducted member. Well, some people have been associates for 10, 15 years. 5 years, 10 years, 3 years. When I first got straightened out, it was at that time, the highest honor to be inducted into a family and to become a wise guy and to be treated with that respect. Looking back on it now, it was the lowest point of my life. It was an embarrassment because basically everything that I thought the life was about was a farce. From a scale from 1 to 10, I'd rate it a 3.
Michael, why shouldn't you get 40 years?
Passing around jewelry, and that's insane. I couldn't even answer what that is about and why they would put something like that.
We want to do business with you, Michael. That's right. We've been together too many. We can wash our money.
This was a commission meeting with the heads of families. New York is chopped up by the 5 families, and everybody knows their place and they know who's who. The commission would meet if there was business to discuss within the families and decisions to be made. Only the people involved in the meeting would obviously be in the know of where and when and what time they were meeting. They could take an underboss, a consigliere, or even a captain if they want. The different families intermingle a lot more than people understand, and it's not so territorial as people think. If they were attempting to hit somebody, it would definitely not be that flashy. It was very Hollywood to me with the helicopter and the machine guns. This would never happen. It would be very low-key and be done quietly. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate this a 0.
Hi, my name is Charlie Santori. I'm the owner of Santori and Son Lock and Safe. I'm a safe technician, meaning safecracker, in Southern California. Today we're going to look at some clips on safecracking in films. The clicking dial that Hollywood loves so much. They typically have a bearing surface on it. It's usually very, very smooth. If it was properly installed, it shouldn't be clicking. There's like 1 or 2 models of a junky safe that you can get at Staples where the dial clicks. It's not really a real thing. The sort of dialing sequence that she would be doing in order to do so is not how she's dialing here. She's actually working backwards to how we typically would. The principle of it is that wheels are being searched for low spots, and what that involves is parking certain wheels and moving other wheels, and there's a certain repetitive sequence to doing that by people that know how to do this, and she's not doing this here.
Come on, Charlie. You can do this.
There's a difference between people burglarizing things and people opening things the way that we open them to put them back in service. They're not going to be sitting around trying to manipulate a safe open. They would drill it open. Even opening a safe like this, even if you're drilling it, is also extremely difficult. You're not haphazardly drilling holes in something. You're not vandalizing something. When we open safes, the idea is it's like arthroscopic surgery. We're doing it in a minimally invasive way. The whole thing is a very academic study. We're supposed to believe when that click happened, that final click is the fence of the lock dropping. But here, with vault locks and safe locks, you have to do a final turn to pull the lock bolt back. There's a certain amount of travel that then opens that lock. So she dials the combination. Here, she stops at 50. The fence drops. She's saying the safe is open, and he turns the handle, but the safe wouldn't be open even if the lock was unlocked because she didn't retract the lock bolt. You know, this notion of somebody creeping around and manipulating a safe open, it does happen and it has happened, but 9 times out of 10, it's sledgehammers and wedges or grinders or saws cutting the thing open. So I want to be generous. It's 3. He's taken the fingerprint off the door with tape. Could have been the cleaning lady's print that he pulled off of there. This actually broke my head a little bit. If you pull the print off with tape and you turn it over and put a ring on it and put Loctite in it, aren't you actually making it a cast of the inverse of the fingerprint?
This safe is serious.
How serious we talking, Scotty?
It's a Carbondale.
Carbondale's a made-up name, but the vault door itself, I looked through hundreds and hundreds of photos of vault doors, and I'm pretty certain that the art directors based this off of a very early Diebold vault door. This is actually a real tool. This is a strong arm mini rig that's used for putting pressure when one's drilling. So that aspect of it is definitely accurate. We'll go do a quick job. It winds up being something where you don't have your full toolkit with you. So, I mean, there's lots of times when we've been running around trying to bend wires and make tools and sort of have to come up with something that we didn't have with us. Supposedly he's freezing it and it's going to expand and crack this door apart. What they showed us was the boltwork inside of the safe and the door pan. There's a big door pan. If he poured a gallon of water in there, it would spill out the bottom of the door pan, basically. If by chance he froze it and the ice expanded, I mean, obviously water can expand, glaciers expand over time. The thing about a vault door is, in this case, there's a thin back panel that's like sheet metal essentially on the back of the door. So the idea that that's going to expand is pure fantasy. It would blow the back panel off before it blew the door off.
There's nothing here.
What'd you say?
It's a suit.
I opened up a couple of safes that were at a Blockbuster Video a while, and there was Astroglide condoms and some dirty photos. So I don't know if a manager was having a fling with somebody, but that was pretty unexpected. On the more valuable side of things, we once opened a safe in an affluent part of Beverly Hills that people had recently moved into a home. The former owner was gone. There were Bulgari necklaces, Cartier necklaces, Krugerrands, GIA certificates. I mean, I can only imagine that it must have been a mid to high six-figure lick. But I think that people get traumatized when there's that much left because they're not expecting to have a moral conflict sort of, it's technically mine, but this obviously meant a great deal to whoever it was that was living here before. It's nonsense, but the mini rig is real, so I'm going to give it a 3.
How would you like to make 250 grand for one day's work?
Oh my God.
There's certainly a lot of safes that are known among people who do this kind of work that are very, very difficult to open, very well guarded locks. So yeah, there is some truth to that.
But of the world's living locksmiths, do I represent your greatest chance of opening it? I can, with humility, say yes.
The biggest myth, I think, is that there's some boffin or there's some maven who has the, magic touch to get the thing open.
The 4 locks. You know what it is?
No.
No, of course not. It's a rotating randomization mechanism. If you mess it up again, it locks forever. You understand? Forever.
Las Vegas is overrun with zombies. The idea that they're going to bring some genius to come and manipulate open 4 locks on a vault door is ridiculous. They would just bring a coring crew, they'd bring coring stuff, and they'd bore a hole in the side of the vault and get it open.
How long will it take you to open it?
30 minutes.
The idea that somebody would manipulate open 4 vault locks in half an hour is pure fantasy. He's supposedly manipulating this open. He's not even looking at the dial, which is where he would be looking for the indications that he would use to manipulate it open. And there's also some hieroglyphs or some scrawling that he wrote on, or he drew on the front of the door that really has nothing to do with what he would be doing in order to get this open. The doors are always heavy. You're talking about a multi-ton door. There are compression systems that have spinning wheels. Not all vault doors have those. Some have handles. According to him, this vault has 4 locks on it. When the vault door swings open, we see that there's actually only 2 vault locks on the back of the door and a time lock with 5 movements. I've never seen a 5-movement time lock. I'm going to give it a 2. As far as the realism goes.
My name is Mark Silverman, and I was involved in organized crime with the Italians and the Irish. Today we're going to be looking at some Irish mob movie scenes.
What do you get, your period?
So you have a good idea if there's strangers in there or if there's something that doesn't look right. You can really find out if somebody's there to infiltrate the bar or cause trouble.
Are you still a cop? No! No!
That's a great scene. I could tell you one thing, and it struck me right away when I saw the movie for the first time. The state police are not going to try to put one of their own inside of a crew, especially a dangerous crew. That's why they recruit informants or top echelon informants, because the informants can walk the walk and talk the talk. And I have never really seen an undercover police officer inside of a crew. A lot of people used to say, well, you know, I know that guy's a cop because of his shoes. I would say, you don't think that they know what shoes to wear and what not to wear? You know, yeah, always looking over your shoulder for that. Yeah. You know, I saw a cop when I came in here, when I was pulling into the parking lot. I didn't miss that. But these days, I don't have to worry about it. Guys on the street like me that are looking at it saying, wow, that's pretty good.
School's out. Thank you, Frank.
Police corruption back in the 80s and the 90s was rampant. Whitey Bulger certainly wasn't the only guy that had the inside track with some of the departments, whether they be local or state or federal. Other guys, I mean, you're not going to survive on the street if you don't have friends within law enforcement. And back then, you know, police didn't really make as much money as they did today, and they were much more easily corrupted. As we moved on to the 2000s, I think that they got a little more stringent. You know, they wanted to eradicate organized crime. They wanted to just put that final nail in the coffin, which they claim to have done several times.
We're not even supposed to be doing this this close to Worcester. This side of Worcester. Says who? Says him. Says Costello.
This is very accurate, so they're obviously nervous. It's all about territory. If you're dealing drugs, doing any type of business in somebody else's territory, you are absolutely open to discipline. However that discipline is carried out, it depends on the severity of the action. Like if you look at like Medford, you know, Somerville, you know, Winter Hill, South Boston, you know who's who and you know where you should be doing things and where you shouldn't. Because if you don't, someone will get your attention one way or another and you probably won't like it, but that's what happens. You know, he's got some real good scenes in there and good storyline. So, yeah, I'd say it's pretty accurate. I'd give it a 7.
Listen, just wanted to stop by and tell you myself.
Is that the zip code for South Boston?
No, it's Charlestown. Everybody has the fighting Irish guy usually like on their calf. You know what I mean? And you know, it's not really like a requirement or anything. It's just that they're proud. I mean, and they should be. They're always going to honor and respect it where they come from.
I think my guys can handle it without me. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't hire them without you. And I wouldn't hire you without them. You're a unit.
Everybody in the crew has a role. Part of his crew is the bank robbery crew. He's not going to put Joe Flipper on it. You know, he's not going to do that. He's not going to hire one without the other. They're going to do it together. They do it right. They do it well. They keep the money flowing. The Irish Mafia, I mean, they're loosely knit crews, you know, that don't necessarily follow the pyramid of the structure of power that the Italians have. You have your bookies, you have your drug dealers, you have your hijackers. Everybody has a role. But the earner, the guy that's filling the pockets of the higher-ups, is the most important guy in that crew.
Just out of respect, smooth things over. Just take this part, all right?
Not gonna cut it. You're gonna do what I ask.
Yeah, he doesn't want his money. You know, he's much more valuable to him continuing to make money, you know. Your earners, you will do anything to keep them earning for you because they're hard to find, believe me when I tell you. You know, there's a lot of knuckleheads out there that you put them on the street, you know, they last about a week. It's like, in reality too, it's the old timers that really have the juice. I always respected the old timers more than anything because these guys have more wisdom in their pinky finger than the guys the young. That's a 9.
Right, that's enough.
Man, just like that, I was one of hell.
So a lot of people believe that Whitey Bulger was part of the Winter Hill Gang. He was at the beginning. I don't think I would ever say he was the leader of the Winter Hill Gang. He was the leader of the Bulger Group. whatever you want to call it. He was running with the gangs in South Boston. There was a power struggle, and they wanted to iron out those problems, and the ultimate result of it was, hey, let's combine it. You know, why don't we make ourselves strong? Why don't we blend Southie and Winter Hill and make it all one crew? And that's what they did. But in 1978, all of a sudden this huge indictment comes down against the entire Winter Hill gang. I mean, guys like Whitey, Stevie, Howie, John Martirano, the who's who of the Irish Mafia in 1978. And it's funny because as it was taking its course, you know, these guys either went on the lam or some of them went to jail or were awaiting trial. All of a sudden, you hear the word unindicted co-conspirators when it came to Steve Flemmi and Whitey Bulger. So an unindicted co-conspirator kind of raised a lot of antennas. And again, that's what people fail to realize is that once he eliminates Winter Hill, he becomes the Bulger group.
I told him everything. The IRA, Cahill, the whole bit.
But you'll be dead before Stevie pulls your teeth.
Accurate. Accurate. He says to Stevie Flemmi, he says, all right, take his teeth out. You know, back in those days, they didn't have DNA. You know, so they would identify bodies by dental records. I think in the movie, too, they refer to a dumping ground where they dumped a lot of bodies, you know, quite a few. I remember when the state police were digging it up. It was bad. It was really bad. I thought Depp was great. Everything down from the, you know, to the walk, to the eyes. You know, Whitey had these eyes that were like grayish blue with like no emotion behind them. And I think you'll see a lot of times in this movie when they show the eyes, like they'll focus specifically on the eyes. They looked pretty good. I'm giving this one an 8. I thought this one was gritty. It was raw. It was pretty accurate.
Hi, I'm Cain Vincent Dyer. I committed over 100 bank robberies in a period of almost 2 years. So after turning myself in, I decided to form a coaching company that helps people transform their lives. And today, we are going to be judging the authenticity of bank robbery scenes. He has on this helmet, so he doesn't need a mask. He doesn't look like he'd be coming in to rob necessarily. It looks like he just kept his helmet on, which guys do all the time. I can really, really relate to this. Him wearing that backpack. I would sometimes either wear a backpack or a duffel bag strapped around the front, and you can still have the control of your hands. It's the only drawback. If you get any kind of tracker or die pack, you walk off and that die pack explodes, he's wearing it on his chest. This is so real. It typically happens your first time or two. Bank robbery is bad enough, so just to put that out there. And what we know from watching the movie is he's in a really desperate situation. Sometimes the desperation kind of overrides the moral compass. It's very accurate. It takes a second for him to pump himself up. Yo, get up. He has tape. He doesn't want those gloves coming off, you know, so obviously he's really conscious of not leaving any type of fingerprints. Also, it's holding his sleeve to the jacket down, which could be covering up some type of tattoo. Interesting that he picked a bank with glass. Because of the glass, he's got to throw it over to them. And, you know, they could put any kind of device in that bag. It almost shows more so the desperation that he went into this bank that is secure with glass and everything like that, but he was still so desperate that it didn't stop him. Him having a problem with his motorcycle is something that's sure, it's happened. They just blow through that red light with all those cars coming. I don't think an intelligent police officer would do that, just because you're putting a lot more people at risk. I would actually rate this a 9. Going into the bank, leading up to the bank, preparing, getting nervous, everything he did, even the mistakes he made inside, were actual mistakes that if you haven't done it, you would probably make. This vault that looks like no one could ever get in except for probably the US military. We have to keep in mind that this movie, everything about this movie is supposed to be over the top. Yes, they do have very intricate lock safes and things like that, time lock safes, things that are really hard to get into. But a lot of time during business hours, they will keep certain safes open just so the employees can have access. I learned everything. So every bank I went into, I knew whether it was going to have a safe such as the one that's in this scene, or if it was going to be a regular open door. And if it were like this, I would pass. Unless I found in one of their manuals or knew that they would keep this door open between certain times. Could I get into that back then, where things were more manual? Oh yeah, I mean, it would have taken a considerable amount of time to break into that. That's not like a 3 or 4 minute deal. You wouldn't have a weapon in there like that unless you had a security guard that was armed. You got to keep in mind, if you shoot that shotgun and he hits that bank robbery suspect, those rounds are probably exiting the perpetrator and going straight into the bank customer or the bank employee.
What bus driver?
That school bus doesn't have any damage on it, and it just crashed through a cement and stone building. And if you remember, it had to go up the steps because when they robbed the building, they went up the steps. So that, like, totally Hollywood, right? Definitely a 1. They know exactly what they're doing. You can tell by the way they move, where they go. They know the layout of this place.
You, away from the computer!
Bank robberies that are done by a lot of different gangs, this is how they go in and this is how they operate, just with brute force and sheer fear.
When's the time lock set for?
9 o'clock.
Don't lie to us. It's 8:15.
He asked her something very specific about the bank, which he already knew. I would ask a bank employee a question just because I knew the answer and I wanted to see if they were going to be straight with me or not. I wanted to see if they were going to be nervous, how they were going to respond to the question I was asking. He just wanted to see if she was going to cooperate.
Hold it. Silent alarm. This address. You pulled the alarm? No.
A lot of people believe that everyone in a bank, all employees have silent alarms. That's not accurate. There's very specific people that have the silent alarms that are allowed to push it.
Switch it up. Come on, let's go.
Bleaching is something I haven't seen done before. I know why he's doing it, to get rid of all type of evidence. Once you put bleach on anything, everything just kind of dissipates. It's just interesting to me that they're doing that. Like the gloves, they have them so much that covers them up. I would say this movie is a 10 for the realistic way that these guys are just that aggressive. Unfortunately, you have a lot of guys that go in and that's how they do it. This scene here is very high tech. This isn't a normal bank robbery, right? There are guys in the military and certain groups around the world that can absolutely do this. Now, a typical bank robbery, you're working within a certain construct of time, and trying to get in a vault like that, even if you have the skill set to get into it, it would probably take you as long to get in that vault as the sentence you would get for getting into it. I have gone into banks that have safe locks and vaults and time lock vaults and stuff like that. But there is a bank in Spain that operates in this way where if certain parts of it are triggered, it will flood the actual safe, which holds all the gold. I'll give it a 10 for entertainment. I'm gonna give it a 1 on the skill set that anyone would have to go do that.
私は新藤達也です。現在牧師をしておりますが、過去に15年間ヤクザをしております。前科は7犯あって3回刑務所に入っています。現在は刑務所から出てきた人たちをサポートしたりしております。今日はテレビや映画を見て、その映像のヤクザがどれだけリアルなのかを評価したいと思います。ヤクザはね、お風呂大好きなの。銭湯大好き。私も大好き。刑務所の中ではほら15分しか入れないでしょ。だからね、お風呂ゆっくり入りたいの。お風呂屋さんにも見えない。下着はつけませんから、絶対に。ありえ刀を浴室に持っていくことがありえません。すぐダメになってしまいます。もちろん日本の法律っていうのは刃渡りといって刃が7センチ、決まってるんです。刃の長さは決まってて、これ以上の刃を持ってたらもうすぐ逮捕されるんです。だからむやみに持って歩けないです。これはもうむちゃくちゃな映画です。この映画のリアリティ10段階評価-5。
てめえなぜこんなことをする？俺たちはてめえに何もしてねえだろ。今日の犯人。
まあまあこの映画の真田広之っていう俳優さんですけど、なかなか醸し出してます。雰囲気を、ヤクザの雰囲気をね。ヤクザが弱々しく見えたら飯食えないんですよ。だから強がってないといけない生き物です。ヤクザパッと見て、ヤクザの人はヤクザだパッと見て分かります。目がね違うんですよ。やっぱ鋭いし醸し出すんですよね、雰囲気を。この全体で醸し出す。ということで、私のいた組の人は実際にああいう刀で人を殺している人もいます。もちろんでも、ね、ああいう刀同士の切り合いっていうのはありません。ほぼありません。今は拳銃です。この映像のリアリティは0です。指詰めの文化のことについて、指詰めっていうのは、私の指を見てください。詰めがないです。私も指詰めしています。支払う、償うってことです。代償です。だから例えば借金返済ができない時に指で借金返済します。あるいはごめんなさい、謝る時に指を詰めます。それが一番大きな使い方です。指の詰め方が違うんですよ。こうやってやってたでしょ。本当はこうだから。手のひらを上にして、ここじゃないのよ。ここから一関節からいきなりこう言ってるでしょ。ここからだから。でも僕はね、あんなかっこよくこうやってない。私の場合はね、のみとトンカチ往々にしてこう自分でやるときは足で踏むの。足でバンって踏むの。刀をパチンって。ヤクザ、指詰めをするのは現在はヤクザだけです。現実に即しています。8。このリアリティは8です。
Hi, my name is Octav Durham, nickname Oki. I did more than 10,000 burglaries. I robbed everything you can imagine, from museums, banks, armored trucks, but I never used any violence.
My name is Arthur Brandt. I'm an art detective, and I'm responsible for recovering 250 million of stolen art. We now work together in trying to prevent art heists. Today we're going to watch art heist clips from Hollywood movies.
Tell me about this one.
Also from Benin, 7th century. Fula tribe, I believe.
Nah. It was taken by British soldiers in Benin, but it's from Wakanda.
She's like the director of the museum.
And nobody approaches, the director doesn't approach or anyone, a guy. Art stolen from Africa is a hot item these days. Countries from Africa are demanding these pieces back from Western museums because they were stolen during the colonial era. And many of these objects do have a spiritual meaning for these countries. And in fact, I was one of the first last year who brought one of such pieces back. An emperor's crown stolen from Ethiopia, and we brought it back and we handed it over to the prime minister in Ethiopia.
I'm gonna take a break.
It is an inside job, you know. There is somebody in it, in a bank or in a museum, who knows about what's going to take place.
It's very easy to get somebody inside, very easy. I did these things, you know. You have to find somebody who has problems, you know, who has debt or something. I trace them where they go out. And then I bump up to them and say, I'm sorry, you want something to drink? But also a strange thing, they come with their open face. He wants to be noticed.
He attracts attention.
Yes, too much.
That's just a taste.
The problem with museums is that they are there for the public. They are not, it's not meant to be a fun. So it's very hard to really prevent everybody from taking something. You cannot put every painting like the Mona Lisa behind such thick glass. I've never heard of an art theft where people were killed, you know. It's they shoot people here like it's, you know, it's war. It's not like that.
Let's say you have stolen art from a crime like this, you cannot sell it. It's too hard. People died, you cannot sell it.
A ridiculous clip. I know of one museum who has lasers. It's the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna, but I don't think it's like this, you know.
You can't dance around these lasers. I'm like, what is this capoeira stuff? Are you nuts? This does not exist. Even if it would exist like this, not touching any one of these lasers is impossible. It's impossible. Even if you would have seen them, if you would see them, you know, without using any spray or something, it's impossible to do this. To practice to do this little dance, it will take you about a year. The whole collection is gone. What you see now is gone in a year and you'll be dancing still with your lasers. I never studied the alarm for a long time. I mean, when you see a building, you see how I'm gonna get in, and I see the system, and it will be studied in a minute. It's a system that I can hack or not. There must have been a lot of sensors, right? I think at least 20 or something. Is always 1 or 2 or 3, 2 in a corner. They take the whole area.
I really doubt if technology will ever be that perfect to prevent art thefts from happening. Because, you know, there is always a button you can switch off. And even if they can't find the button, you know, they come in with a gun.
The average burglar would not do this because he doesn't have skills or the balls to do it, because it looks very scary. They're scared of jail. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. I did crimes, I can do the time. I did a lot of time.
I give this movie a 10, no kidding, a 0.
It looks like it's worth maybe 30, 40 million or something.
Breathe. Breathe.
I don't want to take it from the person. I can see something that the person is wearing and then figure out where he lives, but not ever touch anybody. But most of these chains don't even have a lock to open or close, you know. And if they have maybe a triple security. It doesn't go over click one, it has to 1, 2, 3, and then comes off. Most of these chains, they go over your head if they're with these kind of stones, you know. Why do you need a lock to open or close it? I think this one is very heavy. It's possible to do this, you know. You have pickpocket people who can do this. They take your watch off, you don't even notice, then you chain.
Diamond toilet.
In private security, they will go in. Nobody will stop them because they have to be with their subject. She can't go out of sight. It's impossible that somebody will stop these two guys. In the Netherlands, it's not allowed to have private guards with guns, but outside the Netherlands, it's allowed. Most of these security are ex-military, so they know a lot about them, what they did before, if they're disciplined, if they can keep their mouth shut, what they see or notice. Yeah, I don't even know why it's that coordinated with all kinds of people, put a chain into a soup and then it goes to a kitchen and if you have the chain, you run out. No, don't know how we have to get out.
Somebody gets arrested, they don't find the stuff on him, on her, they already passed it along.
Otherwise you're a suspect, then you have to give it to somebody else. I've been to Monaco to check these kind of necklaces and it was possible, but I didn't know that half the city of Monaco are cops. I didn't know it's the most secure place in the world.
That's true.
2 cops on every person or something like that. You won't make it.
I would say a 5.
I'll give it a 4.
Hello everybody, my name's Brian Stanton. I'm a casino executive in Las Vegas for Station Casinos. I have 20 years in the table games business, watching and looking at game security. Today we're gonna be looking at casino heist movie scenes. I would love to know if a mathematician out there ever looked at any of those equations on there and figured out if it was anything. Card counting is not some extravagant trigonometry problem. It's just basic counting. Second of all, you really can't learn card counting in one day reading a book. The general public knowing about it has probably been a boon for us because people think they can come out and do it and they really can't. If you're gonna count cards, you probably wouldn't attract that much attention to yourself. You have the character in the background flipping off the cameras, creating a lot of energy around and drawing attention to themselves.
Splitting 5.
Noticing that they're doing things, again, he did split 5s, which you would never do even if you were a card counter. You would have to maybe know what the next 3 or 4 cards coming out of the shoe were to make that make sense.
He can't lose! He can't lose!
The floor supervisor and the pit boss talking to each other. We wouldn't need to cover our mouths with a clipboard. They're not gonna read our lips. It would be, hey, something's going on over there. We're watching it on camera. Let's make a plan for what we're gonna do about it. Doing a distraction to escape doesn't make any sense because they still have to cash the chips out. Counting cards is not illegal unless you're using some device to give yourself an advantage, smartwatch or a computer in your shoe or on your thigh. That would make it cheating a game. But keeping track in your head and knowing how many big cards versus little cards are, you can gain an advantage, and so it's frowned upon. If somebody's card counting in a Las Vegas casino, we simply say, hey, you're not welcome to play blackjack anymore. Your action's too good for us. This scene, not very realistic in that regard. 1 for accuracy of how we do things in a casino, or representing how card counters would act.
Cash flows from the tables to our boxes, through the cage, and into the most sacred room in the casino, the count room.
It's not realistic to a modern casino as far as how you would enter it, how it's laid out, or how the actions are actually taking place. You see the keep out sign and then they walk in. We wouldn't allow anybody to walk in with a briefcase nowadays. The workers that walk in are walking in with clear purses, if at all. The count room is the most secure room in the building. There are procedures in place for who can go in, how they can go in, what they can do where they are there. Probably in part because these things did happen when they were run by individuals or by the mob versus now publicly traded companies.
They're counting money. Who wants to bother them? And the best part was that upstairs the board of directors didn't know what the f was going on. I mean, to them, everything looked on the up and up.
But, when you're paying out at the cage, we would count by hand, and they did a good job of how their hand motions were and how they laid the bills out. Every table, there's a paddle to the right of the dealer, and they take the cash and they drop it into a slot, and it goes into what's called a drop box. And those are collected daily, and they're double lock secures, and security would come around and remove them, take them into the count room, where it's unlocked and the money is just dropped out onto a clear table, and then the money is counted and sorted and assigned to that table.
The guys inside the counting room were all slipped in there to skim the joint dry. They'd do short counts, they'd lose fill slips, they'd even take cash right out of the drop boxes.
It's in a time period back in the day where you hear stories about these things going on. A fill slip is just an order form when a table game needs more chips. Throughout the day, as people get up and walk away and cash out, we have to replenish those chips, and you order a fill from the cage to bring more chips to the table, and that's how you figure out how much a table wins or loses in a given day.
And it was up to this guy right here, standing in front of about $2 million, to skim the cash off the top without anybody getting wise, the IRS or anybody.
The skim was apparently a real thing that the mob was doing to the casinos. Casinos are big business, so it takes a lot of employees to factor in the cash that comes through and the accounting paperwork that goes along with that. So it is a very busy room. There's a lot of people working, but not busy enough that we wouldn't notice somebody walking in with a briefcase and walking out with the cash. It takes key access, and there's also cameras everywhere nowadays.
You can spot these assholes by watching the way they bet. Like this guy. He's betting lavender chips at 500 each with only one little problem. He's always guessed right.
When things stand out, you take a closer look at it. So they did a great job of how the dealers are moving, how they're paying, how they're putting cards on the tables, to how the supervisors stand in the pit, to even how De Niro's character walked in and started to observe things.
I saw that the dealer was weak, but he wasn't in on it. He just wasn't protecting his hand. He was lifting his whole card way too high.
The first thing he noticed was that the guy always guesses right. Kind of bends down to tie his shoe so he can get a look at what's going on and where those angles are coming from, and figures out that there's a cheater on the other side.
Signaling his buddy, they cruise from casino to casino looking for weak dealers the way lions look for weak antelope.
Using a device to cheat, at least in the state of Nevada, is a crime, so you don't see that nearly as often. Things like that used to happen as computer technology took hold. If it wasn't for the device, they wouldn't really be doing anything wrong, just taking advantage of a weak dealer. Those were the way we used to check the whole card, was for them to cover it up and look for it. Nowadays we have a thing called a peeker device, which is a two-way mirror that they slide the cards right into so that there's no risk of exposing that card anymore.
Turns out this guy and his fucking pals, they were knocking this place dead for years.
I've heard a lot of stories. I've never heard of a cattle prod. There are stories of back rooms without cameras where guys get roughed up a little bit. Nowadays, we don't need to do that. We have the Nevada Gaming Control Board. We have security where we would just notify and do everything through a legal process. It's once they brought that device into play, and we'd notify the Gaming Commission, say, hey, we have somebody that we suspected cheating, and we would hand it right off to them. I think the movie was done incredibly well from a technical standpoint. Everything outside of the cattle prod knocks the clip down to about a 7.5. I feel like you should have somebody from the CIA or FBI in here to evaluate this more than me, because it doesn't pass the smell test for me on how casinos work or anything that would happen in a casino. I think they say in the movie it connects 3 casinos that in reality are a mile apart. There's no secret bunker anywhere with an elevator in, and then the 2 security guards just happen to be facing away from the only elevator, facing a door for no reason.
As your manager's probably reporting to you now, you have a little over $160 million in your vault tonight. You may notice we're only packing up about half that.
It would depend on how often deposits are made to the bank or whatever, but we are required to be able to cover any winners and losers. Now, does that mean we have to give it to them in cash? No, we just write them a check for it. You know, modern casinos, we've become increasingly a cashless society, and we have credit markers and bank wire transfers.
Yeah.
In previous clips, we saw where the count room was, and then once the money's counted, it's put into a secure location. You can call it a vault if you want to, but it being this far out of the way, this protected, like it's holding the nuclear codes.
Cue up the tape to the robbery. They installed on Tuesday. The images we saw of those men robbing us was a tape.
What?
I feel safe to say that nobody has a vault quite like this one. Or would we spend the money to inlay the marble or terrazzo or whatever that was with the name of the casino in the vault? That seems like we could spend that money better somewhere else. I've worked at some extravagant, opulent places, but that's even a little bit over the top. Our directors of security, our security managers all either were former law enforcement or know them, so they would know when these guys walked in. The likelihood of an entire team of criminals pretending to be Las Vegas Metro or SWAT or whoever and walking out with money. I had a hard time watching this movie when I watched it the first time, and I'm like, wow, I really have to suspend reality to enjoy this. A 1 on how things in a real casino look or act or are run.
There it is.
You have got your wallet, but I got your credit cards.